Hello, so my name is Marina. I'm working with an organization called UNLAWCKED, actually with Anya here. So whatever I'm going to say in my name and also in the name of Anya. So I'm going to start with a story, and actually the story from Europe. It was very interesting to hear about US, but what happened in a tiny, small country called Slovenia in Europe in 2017, I thought that actually we reached mass adoption, at least in this local society where I lived. Because in this time, due to Bitstamp, you probably know the company, its origin is from Slovenia, so there was a lot of people that actually owned cryptocurrencies. And your taxi driver, your butcher, the people working in a shop, everybody had crypto coins and everybody invested in ICOs. So I'm not saying this was really like a good case, but it was a case. And I felt at that time that we had reached mass adoption. But why it was not good? It was in a way actually scary and dangerous, because a person that was not an accredited investor got a loan from a bank in order to invest in ICOs. So this was very bad for the society, and this is something that we really don't want to have right now. So my talk was actually inspired by a conference that it organized in Tennessee in autumn, and it's called Mass Adoption. And we were thinking about what can we do in order to gain mass adoption of not just cryptocurrency, the technology, but also our ideas. We know that we need to improve the technology. We know that the business cases need to add value to the customer, and we know that there should be a regulatory safe environment for those ideas to thrive. And again, the very important thing is actually the education. So we are focusing on the education and providing a safe environment, a legal environment in UNLAWCKED, and actually trying to bridge the word between those two communities. Actually, lawyers that are called non-developers in the blockchain community and developers that are non-lawyers. And it's very hard for those people to speak to each other because we have a certain system of values and we have our actually very specific words we're using when describing the problems that we think are important. So what we have learned in the last 2 or 3 years working in our community was to be patient. This is the first rule, especially when you're talking to politicians and regulators. So there is an organization called the Blockchain Think Tank in Slovenia, and because everybody was so excited about ICOs and cryptocurrencies, the excitement came also from lawyers and from regulators. So we talked to every regulator that could be working on blockchain or had any impact on different projects working with blockchain. And unfortunately, it happened what usually happens when you talk to politicians, elections. So we couldn't reach the goals that we set at the beginning. But what we have right now, it's a really good relationship with all the politicians and also a very good tax crypto-friendly environment in Slovenia due to the talks we had with them. And in a way, you might say, okay, we're coming from Slovenia, it's a very small country. Can we even have an impact on any other regulation or legal system, jurisdiction, like you were saying before? But actually what is happening, if you're familiar or from the European Union, there is every 6 months, one of the country is heading the presidency of the Council of Europe. So at that time, this country is leading the political and legislational activities in the European Union. So the preparations for the Slovenian presidency in 2021 are already happening, and we really hope that we can talk about blockchain at this 6-month period that we are going to be leading. So the next one is understand the community. In May, we actually had the meetup that you're going to have the possibility to attend to also here on the 3rd day. It was called the Year of the DAO. So we had a meetup with Gnosis, DAO Stack, Aragon, Moloch DAO, and it was very interesting because it was so successful that around, more than 100 people actually came to the meetup, but the success came from understanding the community. This is the community that is not really used to talk about DAOs and governance, and we kind of dumb it down the topics for them. And what was actually very interesting and a positive outcome that came out of this meetup was a video that is very suited for the people that are just starting to learn about DAOs. And it can save you hours of research about DAOs because you can learn everything in an hour, in a way, at least for the beginners. So another impact from this meetup actually was that there are 3 groups forming and working on DAOs. 2 are from Slovenia and 1 was actually from Croatia. And another one is that we are organizing another meetup with MakerDAO, and one of the companies from the region are going to implement their solutions. So we actually had quite an impact. When we are talking to organizations that want to create a DAO, we say you need to do the research. So you need to do the research about the projects and about the partners that you would like to work with. So personally, I'm very excited about the day 2 of DGOV because we're going to talk about token economics and the institute from Vienna. The people there are doing great work around that. And especially the company Block Science. So this would be one of the best partners you can actually have when you're designing your DAO. The next thing is to see and learn from new things, but also to kind of study the history and see what was happening before. I was recently reading the article about Linux and the theory of the firm, which is a very interesting case. Linux and Wikipedia were actually big peer-to-peer, platforms that were based on volunteers. And what was the outcome? Why was it so successful? It was because of the 3 actually motivational motivations. Those people that were contributing to the platforms had. One is the money, the second one is hedonism, and the third one is actually the pressure or the feedback from the society. So this was happening more than 10 years ago when we didn't have cryptocurrencies. But I think that with the new technology, blockchain and cryptocurrencies would be even more. They would have even more motivation in order to contribute to bigger platforms like those 2. And the last one, we are very excited to be speaking at the DevCon this year, talking about governance and stakes, and of course at the massive adoption conference this year in US. Anya, if you would like to add anything, but this was basically the presentation that I had in mind.
Just a couple of words to connect Ryan's speech and your speech. We do have a think tank, and think tank actually has 5 different working groups. One of them is for regulatory, the second one is for accountancy, third one is for taxation. And what's funny about it is that we actually had taxation opinions from the authorities in 2017 already, because people were so heavy on mining and were having so many profit that they were constantly pushing the questions to the authorities. Hey, what are we going to do? Are we going to be taxed? How are we going to be taxed? And when it comes to the opinions, people are always afraid that there's going to be a new law. But in fact, when you have an opinion out, it actually values for way back. So as soon as you have a law, it at least values from when the law is established and forward. When you have an opinion, it can go 10 years way back, right? So people were kind of afraid of it, but we managed to speak to the regulators as well. We have this benefit that there's only 2 million of us. So whenever you want to speak with a regulator, everybody knows everyone, so it's pretty easy. It's not like America where you go there and it takes you forever and you need the lobby groups and so on. We are the lobbies. It's pretty easy, and we have, about 600 people in the think tank alone. So it was easy, and people are still talking to the regulators. And I must say that the regulators are very open and educated already. So it took us 2 years, and now nobody is more or less talking about the new law, because they know that if they are going to change the law, they open the Pandora box. So as soon as you want to change the laws or introduce the new ones, there's no end to it. So you have to start with identities, you have to start with digital signatures, you have to start with video conferences, etc. But they at least made the priorities. So if you want to, I would be very happy to connect you all to the regulatory and to the taxation group, because I saw that you kind of need help. So. Yeah. And anybody else, I mean, there might be think tanks all over the place, right? So in Germany as well. And whenever there are think tanks, the collaboration, I think, is the huge benefit. So. Okay, anybody have any questions for Marina? Regulatory sites?
Maybe just to add something. And yeah, of course, everything is done on the voluntary basis, the same way that you are working. So having 600 people, around 1,000 people working in this think tank in Slovenia, with 2 million inhabitants, it's quite a big percentage of people. So thank you very much.